Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishvadaram Gagana Sadrusham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogi Birdhyanagamyam Vande Vishnu Bhavabhayaharam Sarvaloke Kanatam Sarvaloke Kanatam Sarvaloke Kanatam Om. We invoke Lord Vishnu and all pervasive intelligence which lives within you and everyone, everything else as you, as the cognizance, the presence, lucidity. Namaste, fellow pilgrims. I join you once again as we contemplate this great, wondrous, and mysterious gift of life. A while back, I prepared a presentation called Life is God, in which we contemplated the revelations of the venerated sage Nisargadatta Maharaj. Nisargadatta means Mr. Natural State, that he had realized his natural state, our inherent divinity. And in my experience, there is no one who shares the ancient wisdom with the lucidity that he does, who makes it available in quite the same amazing, wondrous, gifted way that he does. And of course, we always have to mention his translator, Maurice Friedman, who they say could articulate his guru's point of view better than the guru themselves can. So we pay homage to the great sage Maurice Friedman and to his guru, Nisargadatta Maharaj, as we contemplate this liberating wisdom. Now, in India is unique in all the world and all the wisdom of the world, because in India we have a vital, living tradition which connects us with untold millennium and connects us with the ancient wisdom, passed on from realized being to passionate disciple, much as we are today, that you have a passionate desire to comprehend this liberating wisdom, to evolve your consciousness and lift you out of your ignorance into the knowledge of your inherent divinity. And I laud your passion, and I'm grateful to be able, I hope, to support you in your journey to liberation. So it's important to understand that the Vedas, the crown jewel of the wisdom of ancient India, that the Ved means to know. And the Vedas aren't books of knowledge with information. The Vedas are a body of realization. Ved means to see, to realize, to cognize, to get. Aha, I got it. And here we're talking about the ultimate realization, the realization that lifts you out of the ignorance of your total identification with this vulnerable ego and this problematic ego mind, and takes you beyond this into the knowledge of your inherent divinity and the constant communion with that state of lucidity and with the light of self-realization. So we're talking about the evolution of your consciousness, and we're talking about a tradition of contemplation, and you're joining in this contemplation as we look at these images and talk about these thinkers and their contribution to our understanding of our inherent divinity, what sages of the East traditionally call yourself. And let's talk about why they call it yourself. So we're in a series of presentations called Life is God number 2, Life is God number 1, is where we go through the work of sage Nisargadatta Maharaj, and we contemplate numerous aphorisms which point out that life itself is God, that any concept that we have of God, any effigy we have of God, pales in comparison to life itself. And we take a point of view which invites us to treat the life force as God, to understand that prana, life force, is Shakti. That life is one, and for contemplation, we have many, many stories in which we break up our experience of life in different ways and make up these different stories of trying to understand the oneness. So sometimes we talk about life as Shiva, and Shiva means auspicious, and it points to this incredible ecstasy of this moment of awareness, this moment of consciousness. And the thing about Shiva is Shiva and Shakti, life, transcendental life, and eminent life are one, that the source and nature as the self-sacrifice of the source, nature as the body of God are one, but for purposes of our understanding, we separate the transcendental and the eminent, just like your body and the Shakti that keeps your body alive are one. Shiva and Shakti are one, though for our thinking, we think of them in these dualistic terms. While Shiva is exactly like the life in your body, and Shakti is the material form, and they are one, but for purposes of our understanding, we can separate them. So the first point we made is that Shiva and Shakti are one, though for our purposes, we separate them. And then we go on to understand that Shakti is prana. Shakti is the life force. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, the avatar, the Purna avatar, the full descent of divinity into form, into human form, Sri Krishna unveils a profound distinction between the body, the field, and the soul, guiding seekers to realize the eternal self beyond physical identity as cognizance, the self-organizing intelligence that is the definitive characteristic of life. Self-organizing intelligence that is the definitive characteristic of life. As he said, I am the knower of all fields. I am the cognizance as the knower of all fields. So the first of our slides today is the assertion by Umberto Maturana, co-founder of the Santiago School of Cognition, that cognition is the definitive characteristic of life. So what is it that's unique about life? What is it that defines life forms? Life forms are cognizant, that life forms have the ability to what he calls self-create, that they have ability to create and maintain and recreate themselves. The cognition is not merely a product of neural activity, but is intrinsic to all living systems. Sentience and cognition are fundamental to life itself. Living systems are cognitive systems, and living as a process is a process of cognition. This statement is valid for all organisms with or without a nervous system. So every living thing is a homeostatic system, maintaining its homeostasis in a feedback loop, in a cybernetic loop. And this is the definition of life. Life has the ability to be cognizant of its essential dharma, of its essential place in creation, and to be able to feed back what's going on in that field that defines that unique organism, and to self-correct in order to continue to create and sustain that field, and again to join with other fields as well to create more and more complex organisms, each autonomous, each free, maintaining the integrity of its field and yet surrendering and co-creating larger, more complex fields. In their seminal work, Autopoiesis and Cognition, the realization of living, Maturana and his co-creator, Varela, introduced the concept of autopoiesis, self-creation, as a defining feature of living systems. They argue that living organisms are autopoietic systems, continuously producing and maintaining themselves through internal processes. This self-maintenance is not merely mechanical, but involves a dynamic interaction with the environment. Through this lens, cognition emerges as the process by which living systems engage with and adapt to their surroundings, underscoring that cognition is intrinsic to life itself. I am the knower of all fields. Cognition is the essence of divinity, and cognition is the essence of life. In a more recent work, the sentient cell, the cellular foundations of consciousness, were introduced to the work of Arthur S. Reber, who argues that without sentience, the first cells that emerged some billion years ago would have been evolutionary dead ends, unable to survive in this chaotic, dangerous environment in which life first appeared. This suggests that cells engage in decision-making, process to navigate the environmental challenges. Information processing and response, according to Reber's theory, all cells are endowed with individual sentient cognition that guides their agency, behavior, and evolution. This indicates cells process environmental information and respond appropriately. We see cells manifesting adaptive behavior, behavioral flexibility and adaptation, similar to cognitive processes in more complex organisms. We see cells, single-cell creatures, with memory-like functions. Cells have some form of information retention that guides their future response, what I've been calling dharma. That cells have environmental assessment, that they evaluate their surroundings and make appropriate responses to survive and thrive. That cells have collective intelligence, that cells assemble as functional tissue ecologies and as organs within multicellular organisms. That cells aggregate and they display derivative versions of aggregate tissue and organ-specific sentience and consciousness. Reber's central thesis that cellular sentience serves as the primary source of biological order and evolution, suggesting that we recognize as cognitive processes in complex organisms have their roots in fundamental cellular operations that have been present since the very beginning of life about 4 billion years ago. So the same lucidity that you use to maintain the homeostasis of your life, to self-correct in your journey, is the same lucidity, the same cognizance, the same presence, the same defined self that we find in the cell. Again, Sri Krishna says, I am the knower of all fields. The cognizance, the self-organizing intelligence, the definitive characteristic of life is the divine within you. In one of the principal Upanishads, the Kaustika Brahmana, circa 5000 BCE, I'm sorry, circa 500 BCE, the god Indra, the king of heaven, is asked for a boon deemed to be the most beneficial for mankind. Sri Indra exhorts, understand me only, and reveals the doctrine of the supremacy of cognizance. For verily without cognizance, speech does not make known any name soever. My mind was elsewhere, he said. I did not cognize that name. For verily without cognizance, breath does not make known any odor. For whatsoever my mind was elsewhere, I did not cognize that odor. For without cognizance, the ear does not make known any sound whatsoever. My mind was elsewhere. I did not cognize that sound. He goes on, verily, if there were no elements of cognizance, there would be no elements of existence. For as in a chariot, the felly is fixed on the spokes, and the spokes are fixed on the hub, even so these elements of existence are fixed on the elements of cognizance, and the elements of cognizance are fixed in the breathing spirit. The same breathing spirit is truly the self, bliss, ageless, immortal. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. So in the ancient wisdom, we're witnessing a realization of the unity and divinity of all life. And that all, and while Brahma is an all-pervasive ground of pure awareness, pure cognizance, it is the nature of this awareness to unfold its creative potency through manifestation. And it manifests through life. And we all know that the most fundamental characteristic of life is that life breathes. And the universe is a singular, living, breathing, conscious being. And all vibration is nada Brahma, the vibration of the absolute. And all vibration is Shakti. All vibration is the life breath of a living universe, and everything that moves, as above, so below, in exactly the same way that every level of your body, from the macrocosm through the microcosm, down to the quarks and DNA, is a unitary living system. Your body is a microcosm of the universe, and exactly in the same way that the spiritus, the life breath of a living universe, vivifies your body on every level of energetic wholeness and integration. This same life breath is the life breath of a living universe, and from infinite galaxies to solar systems, to planetary systems, to the life breath. It's right here, spiritus, the Latin word for the life breath, that spirals down to give life to every dimension in this holarchy, this hierarchy of wholeness, where everything that exists is a microcosm. As the poet Rumi says, you are not a wave in the ocean, you are an ocean in the wave. One of the things that we can come to understand is the ancient wisdom offers us an image, an understanding, a realization of a holographic universe. Now, I have to qualify this to say in a holograph, each image becomes a little fuzzier. And in this reality that we're experiencing, each time that rajas and tamas, yang and yin, in-breath and out-breath on every level of macrocosm and microcosm touch, the two waveforms counter each other, create a still point of sattva and self-correct. So in every dimension of yang and yin, the life breath of a living universe, from the smallest nanoparticle to infinite galaxies, there are these still points of sattva where the two waveforms, rajas, the expanding fiery breath of a living universe, and tamas, the contracting feminine breath of a living universe. At each point that rajas and tamas touch, there is a still point of sattva, which is one with the source and self-correct. So that in this holograph that we call life, it's much more perfect than the holograph that we contemplate here in our physical plane. So the universe means attuned to one coil, that everything that moves in creation, the breath of Brahma, the breath of this one living universe. And the golden ratio is the mathematical expression of the life breath of our living universe. And it allows us incredible holarchy in which atoms can breathe into molecules, could breathe into cells, could breathe into tissue, organisms, planets, nature, the solar winds, the cosmos, ultimately to merge into totality, Prana, totality. What we find is that same recursive nature of the universe, that atoms nest within molecules, molecules nest within cells, cells nest within tissue, tissue nests within organism, organism nest within ecosystem, ecosystem nests within planets, planets nest within solar system, solar system nest within galaxies. This recursive pattern suggests the fundamental unity and interconnectedness throughout the universe. And that is because everything breathes as one, following the golden ratio spiral from that most vast dimension that we can comprehend to the subtlest dimensions that we comprehend. This golden ratio spiral is the mathematics of this life breath of a living universe. And form follows energy. So we see this recursive pattern, which allows the integration of each level of the holarchy from microcosm to macrocosm, and each breath of this life living universe, and macrocosm to microcosm. Here we look at a picture from the microclarivoyant vision of the brilliant E.D. Babbitt, where we're looking at how in this, of course, atoms are. This is a heuristic device. This is an image to help us picture, and it's just a finger pointing to the moon of something as tiny as an atom. They say was a cell is as complex as the dynamics of the city of Tokyo. So if you can think of all those processes going on in one cell, and again, that cell is a macrocosm of these atoms, that you have a similar complexity in every dimension of this holograph of complexity of life. So that we're saying that every dimension of life, from the DNA to the galaxy, is complex, is beyond complex, because it is a holograph which contains totality and is a microcosm of all the processes of totality. It's fun being a philosopher. You don't really have to prove any of this. I'm not an academic or a physicist. I can just rave about this and hope that it's useful to you on some level. So here we're looking at Babbitt's atom as a spectrum of color, each representing a level of vibration. I highly recommend the video that I offer, in which we talk much more about how the different colors, the different levels of vibration, fire or air or ether, how they entrain with each other through sympathetic vibration to link atoms and molecules and cells and create fields. So, where a basic premise is life is God, that Prana and Shakti are one, that Shakti the feminine aspect of the divine manifests as prana, manifests as the holographic knowledge that's in that life force that's able to pantheistically create and sustain this amazing and wondrous gift of life. Prana, or life force, is a universal energy permeating all of creation, connecting and animating every aspect of existence. Now we can personify this as Shakti, the feminine aspect of creation, often depicted alongside Shiva. So here we're looking at a Shiva who is masculine and feminine in an inseparable duality of Shiva and Shakti. Two halves of a whole, transcendent and eminent, are one. Constantly, and he emphasizes the cybernetic mechanism of this life force, moving from whole to part, part to whole, in a constant of cognizance to maintain the incredible complexity that is this gift of life. Considered the emerald tablet of Hermes. Again, emerald is the color of the heart chakra. Emerald is the color of the still point between fire and water. Emerald is the color of the emerald earth, the still point between the breath of heaven and the breath of earth that maintains the green goddess, our beloved Mother Nature. And the ancients promulgated a holographic understanding of the universe. As above, so below, as within, so without, as with the universe, so with the soul. Again, that you're not just a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean in the drop. As above, so below. As within, so without. As with the universe, so with the soul. That you are a microcosm of whatever this gift of life has within it. Now your body is a musical instrument played by this breath of life, that as you breathe, the body as a whole and the tissue goes through a process of cosmic, natural and cosmic attunement, that the tissue, as we breathe, the tissue expands into a solar attunement, which we call rajas, and it aligns with the solar force, with what we call fire. And as we inspiration and then expiration, the atoms, molecules, cells, tissue, organs, microcosm, macrocosm, every level moves from a solar attunement to a lunar attunement, from fire to water, from spirit to matter, from yang to yin, from masculine to feminine, that in each moment the body is played by the breath of life and played through the elemental harmonics of nature, traditionally called ether, air, fire, water, earth. Ether, omniscience, which allows the integration of totality in an omnipresence of awareness, and omnipresent awareness, which we call ether, which contains all past, present, in a totally coherent and available way that allows incredible level of self-correction. So ether is the omnipresence and the omniscience, which is right here in this moment, right here in this point in time, if you know how to read it, if you're pure enough, or if you know the etiquette that will give you access to this Akashic record, Akasha, Chitakasha, literally, Brahman, the absolute, total, omnipresent, omniscient knowledge. So ether mediates between every dimension of microcosm and macrocosm. And because of its omniscience and omnipresence, it's able to mediate between the space within, the space without, and Purna totality. So your body is a musical instrument that moves through these cycles of ether, the unmanifest, total freedom, air, the rhythms of life, fire, the unfolding of the creative potency of life, water, the moving into the feminine to give it form, to give it beauty, decency, and earth, the releasing of this evolutionary energy into form, and the dissolution and the rising back into spirit. So here we want to just for a moment talk about our elements.
The Latin word for breath is spiritus. It comes from the same roots as our word spiral. It is spiritus that plays the instrument of nature. All of nature is alive. All of nature is breathing. As we breathe, the tissue of our bodies is stretched by the act of breathing in a cycle of attunement to nature and the cosmos. On cellular and molecular levels, the tissues stretches to modulate its musical pitch. As we breathe in, there is a lengthening of the tissue to the keynote of resonance that cross-culturally and transhistorically the ancients called the air element. Thus, through attunement to the keynote air, life force stepped down from the subtle universal elements into embodiment. Then in quantum fashion, the inhalation ballooned the tissue into the radiant keynote of the creative potency of the solar fire element. Next in the cycle of breath is a still point where inner and outer forces come into balance as the earth element. Then, as the diaphragm descends, the tissue contracts into resonance with the lunar keynote of the water element. Nature is a fabric of ultrasonic resonance, attuned to the keynotes of earth, solidity, water, the fluid medium for life force, fire, the functioning of creative intelligence, air, the feedback process, which is the essence of intelligence, and ether, which modulates sacred space between the subtle, universal elements of the cosmos and the material elements of nature. All of nature is vibrating in a life-giving state of praise, attuned to the voice of the goddess Saraswati, singing the holy word, singing the music of creation.
So is Mula Prakriti, the holographic element, the unit of activity, the very foundation yet to be discovered for what is extolled today as the quantum mechanics. So in this article, Secrets of Sankhya, Acme of Scientific Unification, the sage G. Srinivasan, talks about how Maharishi Kapila, who was an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, one of the mind-born rishis who gave birth to our dimension, to our creation, to our manifest, to this earth and the unfolding of consciousness on this first. So Kapila, who's dated from 600 BCE, but again is said to be a rishi, mind-born and beyond time and space. He reveals in Sankhya that all phenomena of nature was a holographic or coherent vibratory form. And if you know anything about Indian philosophy, you understand that Sankhya, which is understood to be the basis of all Oriental philosophy, Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain, is credited to Maharishi Kapila. And his entire theory of cosmic evolution unfolds the dynamics of these components, which constitute space vibrating or oscillating perpetually due to axiomatic laws as a frozen hologram. And all phenomena are an outcome of this fundamental holographic nature. So this is there in Sankhya, that all things like stellar bodies, planets, oceans, mountains, trees, everything is a piece of this dynamic space. Again, the Sankhya shows the irrefutable connection of a holographic universe and the dynamics of which a holographic universe must be the medium that gives birth to our relativistic universe. Every coherent state in the substratum of space contained the powerhouse of the universe. Again, totality was there in every form. The ocean was there in the wave. It's Shiva Shakti, coherent power. So I recommend, if you're a real mind tripper, that you do a search for this article by Srinivasan. His knowledge goes way beyond mine. It's an elaborate PDF which you can download for free and contemplate this wisdom. So I guess we've gone far enough into this stack for one day. I thank you so much for your focus and attention as we contemplate the unity and divinity of all life here. And understand cognizance as the definitive characteristic of life, and understand that whatever there is in this creation, you are a microcosm of that. So we're basic premise is divinity. There is an intelligence within everyone and everything, the knower of all fields. And this cognizance is what we would traditionally call God. And that the quintessence of life is this cognizance. This cognizance allows for the homeostatic processes that define the autopoiesis, the self-correction, the self-creation, the self-maintenance of life forms. That this recursiveness is indeed the very definition of consciousness. So I hope this helps you in your journey to realize that the realization of God is simpler than you ever imagined, that God exists as life force, and that God exists as this cognizance, this intelligence, this lucidity, which is the same lucidity that's hopefully helping you to understand me, and the same lucidity which is the root of your realizations of the unity and divinity of all life. So namaste, honor to this great and wondrous gift of life that, and it unfolds its creative potency through the incredible hologram, the incredible microcosm of creation that you and I and everyone and everything is. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Har Har Mahadev. Om Namah Shivaya. Har Har. Thank you for your focus and attention. God is well.
Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoma Mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Trayambakam Yajamare Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Ovarukamiva Bandhanam Mritya Mukshiyamamrita. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Dev Shanti,